Good afternoon, geometry. So today we are going to do the virtual learning assignment 3, which is about solving quadratics using the quadratic formula. All right, so quadratics are anything that has an x squared. Its highest degree is an x squared or a y squared or whatever the variable is, it's squared. That would make it a quadratic. The quadratic equation, I got my little pointer here up on the wall, is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's standard form. So the highest degree will come first, which is a, b, and c are all coefficients. They can be any constant, okay? So ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. It has to equal 0. And once it equals 0, then I can use the quadratic formula to solve for the x variable. So the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. All right? So the a, the b, and the c, again, are my coefficients, all right, when it is in order, when it is in standard form. So my a on number 1, the question was, what is the solution to 3x squared plus 5x minus 1 equals 0? It equals 0, so that means that 3 is my a, just the number, not the x squared. It is just the number. My b would be the number 5. B is the number 5. And c is the number negative 1. You have to remember to take the sign with it. It's not just 1, it's negative 1. Okay? I like to write the quadratic formula with all blanks, and then I fill in my blanks. So I would have negative blank plus or minus the square root of blank squared minus 4 blankety blank all over 2 blank. And in my blanks, I will fill in 2 b's, 2 a's, 1 c. 2 b's, 2 a's, 1 c. 2 b's, which is the number 5. So 5 here and a 5 there. 2 a's, 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom. So my a was the number 3. 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom, and 1 c. And my c was the number negative 1. Negative 1. Your parentheses are important here, all right? We need the parentheses. The inside of this square root is called the discriminant. The discriminant. And we will learn the importance of that later, but just the inside is called the discriminant. If I just put into my calculator the 5 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 1, which, by the way, you cannot switch up your subtraction with your negative. The subtraction, if you have the class set of calculators, the subtraction button is silver, or it was silver, but the negative button has parentheses around it. Okay, they are 2 different buttons and it will not work if you try to switch them up. So 5 squared subtract 4 times 3 times negative 1. Okay, so what this gives me, out here I have the negative 5 plus or minus the square root of, and if I just put in the 5 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 1, the discriminant would be 37. And it's all over 2 times 3, which is the number 6. That is my answer. That's it. That's as far as I can go because nothing comes out of the square root. The 5 and the 6 don't reduce. That is it. That is my answer. Number 2 is a star. So once I post this video, I want you to answer in the comments below. And the first person to answer with the correct, actually, send it to me on Remind, guys, because it's going to be hard to type a plus or minus in the square root. So send me your answers on Remind. I have a rag. I don't need my hand. Okay, number 3. Suppose that h equals negative 16t squared plus 112t represents the rocket's height after t seconds. How long will the rocket's flight last? So this rocket is being shot up in the air. It's going to go up. It's going to come down. It's going to be a parabola, an upside down parabola. But again, we'll get to that part later. But you can imagine if you have a rocket on the ground and it shoots up in the sky and then it's going to come back down, right? It would be like the U shape, all right? They want to know how long will the rocket's flight last? So how much time does it take it from its start to go up in the air and come all the way back down where it's finished? How long did that take? How long did that take? That's going to be my time, height, and this is what we use the quadratic formula for. It will tell me how long before it reaches 0 again, right? 0 feet up in the air. That's why it's always equal to 0. So when my height, when my h is 0, I would have negative 16t squared plus 112t. Here's the thing. If I'm using the quadratic formula, right, I'll set it up with my negative blank plus or minus the square root of blank squared minus 4 blankety blank all over 2 blank. All right, there's my quadratic formula. Set it up with your blanks. My a is the number negative 16. Again, it doesn't matter what the variable is. Whatever's next to the squared is your a. The b is 112 because it's next to the regular term, just the variable to the first power. My c is supposed to be whatever's at the end, but I don't have anything at the end. And if I don't have anything, then it's like I added nothing. I added a 0. All right, so there's an imaginary 0 here, which is my c. Okay, so in the quadratic formula, there are 2 b's, 2 a's, 1 c. 2 b's, 2 a's, 1 c. 2 b's, my b is the number 112. 2 a's, my a is the negative 16. I have one on the bottom, one on the bottom, one on the top. And then 1 c, and my c is the number 0. Okay, so what is this going to do? I have a negative of 112, so negative 112 plus or minus the square root of something all over 2 times negative 16, which is negative 32. All right, that something, that inside was called the discriminant. The discriminant. Just the inside number is called the discriminant. 112 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 0, that's going to wipe everything out. And so all I'm going to have is the 112 squared, which is 12,544. But 12,544, if I took the square root, it is just going to turn into the number 112. I knew that from here, right? The square and the square root would cancel each other. So here's how we handle the plus or minus part. Because it turned into a whole number, I need to figure out actually what these two numbers are. I have negative 112 plus 112 all over negative 32. And I have negative 112 minus 112 all over the negative 32. I had to take that plus or minus and apply it. Either it's plus the 112 or it's minus the 112. But I need 2 answers. There should always be 2 answers to your quadratic equations. So this one here, when I did negative 112 plus 112, it's just going to give me 0. And 0 over negative 32 is just 0. Okay? So that's one answer. It's not the answer we want to use. It's 0 when it starts. Remember the picture I had drawn and it started? So it's going to start on the ground, but then it's going to go up in the air and it's going to come back to hit the ground, and we have to figure out how long that is. That'll be this answer here. So negative 112, take away another 112 is going to give me negative 224. And that is still over the negative 32. And when I divide negative 224 by negative 32, my answer will be a positive 7. That's the answer we want. It will take 7, and T was in seconds. 7 seconds before it hits the ground again. Woo! Word problems.